everyone, welcome back to the Revolution YouTube channel. I'm Roxy from the channel ROXXAURUS, and today I have a very special announcement to give you guys, and I'm kind of not ready for it. So for the past year, I've been working with Revolution very closely on not one, not two, but 3 palettes. Oh my god! I can't believe I've actually said this out loud. It's been such a massive secret that I had to keep for like a year, and it's been kind of killing me inside that I couldn't tell you guys. I want to quickly say a massive thank you to you guys and also the Revolution team and Adam Minto, the owner of Revolution. You guys are literally the best. They've been such a dream to work with. We've created some kick-ass products, and I can't wait for you guys to try them and get your hands on them. But I'm sure you guys are dying to know what the actual products are. So first up, we have 2 eyeshadow palettes, and also the third product is a contour and highlighter palette. I'm gonna give you guys a whole download of the whole range, every single palette, the shades, the formulas, all that kind of jazz. So first up, we have the Ride or Die palette. It comes in a gorgeous marble sort of packaging. It's got like gold flexes going through it, and my name is printed on it. It's actually my handwriting. And when you open this up, this is what the palette looks like inside. I'm actually obsessed. As you can see, the lid of the palette is metallic. It's like a reflective gold. It kind of works as a mirror, which is pretty cool. And it's got my name on it. It says Roxxsaurus Ride or Die palette. So I wanted to curate a palette that was basically like my Ride or Die shades. So hence the name. I really wanted this palette to have all of the neutrals, the basics, and the warm tones so that you guys can really easily create a look on the go. And these are the shades that I know and love, and you guys will know this. But without further rambling, let's actually get into the palette. So this is what it looks like on the inside. Of course, mine's a little bit used, but this also does come with a protective cling film sheet that I've taken out. I can't believe I'm showing you guys this. Honestly, it is like my dream palette. All of the shades that I love and more are in here, and I can't wait for you guys to play with them. So first things first, let's just talk about the palette and the aesthetic of it. So we have a nude sort of backing where the pans actually sit in. I wanted something quite neutral that I feel like the shades will really pop and stand out, and I feel like it's so Instagrammable. We also have all of the shade names printed onto the actual palette, because you guys know how much I hate those little like sheets that you just throw out and you never really know what the shade is called after. I want to point out that every single shade that's matte in this palette has a embossing of the letter R, which is the same as the lid, and I am so excited about that because that is my handwriting pressed into a shadow. Like, how cool is that? I've laid out all of the palettes in a very strategic way. So we kind of have 3 sets of looks in this palette almost. We have the first 2 columns, which kind of create like a beautiful burgundy / red sort of toned look. We then have the middle 2 rows, which create a lovely sort of warm toned, kind of like pinky and yellowy orangey sort of look. And then the last 2 rows I feel like would work really well as a look. They have more of those bronzy, darker sort of colors and even a pop of turquoise in there. All of the palettes are going to retail at £10, and I will have the conversion to other currencies because I'm not sure what they're going to cost on the top of my head. So now I'm just going to show you guys all the swatches on my arm of all the 18 shades, and if you guys want to know a bit more about the sort of like story behind why I called each shade what I did, then make sure you guys check out my video on my channel as well, where I talk a little bit more in depthly about that. So now let's get to the exciting part. Let's get swatching. So here are all the swatches in order in all their glory. So first up, we have the shade Iconic, which is a shimmer champagne sort of color. This one is perfect for an inner corner highlight. The next shade is called Boo, which is this one right here. It's like your typical neutral shade that's perfect as a base. We then have the shade Yas, which is a foiled shimmer sort of shade, kind of like a brighter sort of copper shade. Next up, we have the shade Pumpkin, which is a gorgeous bright orange. This one is a matte, and I just love this shade so much as a transition color or even all over the lid. We then have the shade Shook, which is another shimmer foiled shade. This one is a pure gold. I love this one so much. Up next, we have the shade Cookie. This one is a neutral sort of brown. It's not too warm toned, it's not too cool toned. It's kind of like the perfect in between. Next, we have the shade Gingerbread. This one is a red toned brown kind of color. Kind of got a burnt orange undertone to it. Then have the shade Firework. This is a really beautiful coral shimmer shade. It's kind of got like a gold reflex going through it. Next, we have the shade Honey. This one is a true yellow color. It's a matte and it's super pigmented. We then have the shade Unicorn. This is kind of like a white shimmer shade. Next, we have the shade Cola, which is this one here. It's like a very dark matte brown. This one is perfect for kind of deepening up the look and making it a lot more smoky. Next we have the shade Ember, which will work beautifully with the shade Cola. This one is kind of like a shimmer brown, but it's got a gold reflex going through it. Next we have the shade Cranberry, which is this one right here. It's a very beautiful burgundy sort of shade. The formulas of the foiled shades are so creamy, so they literally glide on the skin. We then have the shade Ariel, which is a true red color. This one is a matte one. We then have the shade Sunset. This is a gorgeous pink sort of shade with a gold sparkle going through it. This one is a matte one yet again, and it's a little bit pinkier than the Ariel one. This is kind of like a sister shade to Ariel, but it's kind of got more of a pinky undertone to it, and it's also a matte. We then have the shade Mars. This one is another foiled formula. This one is so gorgeous. It's kind of like a bronzy slash copper shade. And lastly, we have the shade Draco. This is a very muted and still wearable kind of green shade, and it's also a matte. Now the next product of my little range is the Color Burst palette. This is an eyeshadow palette. Again, it's got 18 shades inside. As you can see, the packaging is also a marble, but this one's a blue marble. I really wanted the whole range to kind of feel like it belongs together, and it also has these same sort of metallic kind of accents to it. This is what the actual lid looks like. It's kind of like a metallic blue. It's also reflective, just like the other one. I love the color that this lid is. It's kind of like an aqua blue, which makes me think of like the poolside and holidays, and that's exactly what I feel like this palette is going to be perfect for. I called this palette the Color Burst palette because, as you guys will see, it is bursting with color. Again, inside we have another gorgeous 18 colors. There's 3 different formulas in this palette as well. There's the mattes, the shimmers, and also the foiled frenzy formula. When you look at this palette at first glance, it can look a little bit intimidating because of how many colors there are in here. However, I really wanted to make it user-friendly. As you guys probably know, I wasn't really one to play with color very much. I've only recently kind of started to come out my shell and really experiment with color. So I worked super hard to make all of the shades work together really well, blend together really well, and just kind of be really wearable at the same time. So the top row is kind of like my basic primary sort of colors. I feel like these colors are necessary if you want to create like a rainbow look. It's kind of got like all the colors of the spectrum of a rainbow, so I feel like you could really go to town and create some really amazing creative looks. As you can see, the middle row is a little bit more wearable. We've got some oranges, some warm toned golds, that kind of thing. I really wanted to incorporate some colors into there that were still kind of like your everyday sort of shades, so that you could really easily create a look that's, you know, suitable for everyday if this was the only palette that you had on you. And then the last row kind of has your reds, your purples, your blues. I would say this palette is definitely kind of like my alter ego. Whenever I reach for this palette, I really just feel so inspired and so creative, and I end up making some really cool looks that I never thought I could ever create. So the first shade of the Color Burst palette is called Timmy. It's a matte white shade, and I feel like this is perfect as a base color underneath any of these shades. However, you could also use it on top of any of the shades to kind of brighten them up a little bit. The next shade is called Lemonade. This is another yellow shade. It's a matte as well, but it's a slightly different undertone of yellow to the previous one in the other palette. We then have the shade Lavender. This is a beautiful lavender shade. Again, it's a matte shade, but it's super creamy. Up next, we have a hot pink matte shade called Fetch. I had to call this Fetch because it just reminded me so much of Mean Girls. Up next, we have the shade Dinosaur. This is a bright neon green sort of shade. It's another matte shade, and I called this one after you guys, the dinosaur family. We then have the shade Blue Lagoon. This is a true blue matte color. This one is again such a vibrant color, and it's super punchy. We then have the shade Golden Hour. This is a true gold sort of color. We then have the shade Golden Hour. This is a super shimmery foiled shade, and again, it's like that true golden color. I love it so much. The next shade is called Bang Bang. This is a super vibrant orange shade. It's a matte as well. After that, we have the shade Princess. This is kind of like a peachy pink sort of shade. This one is a shimmer formula, and it's kind of got like a gold reflex going through it. The next shade is called Peaches. This one is a very delicate shade, but it's kind of got like a pinky slash peachy tone to it, and I love it so much through the crease. We then have the shade Botanical, which is a shimmer green shadow with a gold sparkle going through it. The next shade is called Cocoa. This one is a matte brown, and it's again a great one to use to kind of deepen up any of the other shades in this palette. We then have the shade Red Velvet. This one is a super dark sort of red. It's again a matte formula, but but it's super pigmented. After that, we have the shade Constellations. This is a shimmer gold sort of color. I love to use this one as an inner corner highlight or even on the brow bone. We then have the shade called Memories. This is kind of like a purple matte color. I love to pair this one with the shade Lavender. They really easily blend together. Next, we have the shade Royal. This one is a foiled formula. This is kind of like a dark plum kind of color. Next, we have the shade Twilight. This is a super matte navy color. I love to pair this one with the next shade, which is called Sky. Sky is a super shimmery color. It's kind of got like a blue undertone to it, so I feel like it works really well with Twilight and Blue Lagoon and more of the cooler toned shades from this palette. And last but not least, we have the contour and highlighter palette. I am obsessed with the packaging again. It's kind of got that marble sort of effect going through it. This is what it looks like. And the inside packaging again matches the outer box, and it's this gorgeous rose gold kind of copper sort of color. Again, it's the same metallic lid but in copper, and it's got my handwriting in kind of like a matte nude sort of color. And this is what it looks like on the inside. So on the left hand side, we have 4 contour shades. These are super creamy, really easy to blend, and they're also cool toned. And on the right hand side, we have 4 amazing blinding highlighters. I mean, you guys can pretty much see that from space, let's be real. These are super finely milled, but they're so pigmented, and I am just in love. So with this palette, it was really important to me to make something that was all inclusive of a lot of different skin tones. It was very hard to do that in one palette. I feel like there is quite a gap in the market for products like this that are just, you know, easily usable and reachable for anyone of any skin tone, and I feel like we definitely created that with this, just because we do have a very light contour color, which I feel like will work perfectly for my paler babes out there. The shadow is a little bit too light for me, but I could always use this as a powder. The second shade along is my perfect color. I actually use this as a contour, and I kind of blend these two together sometimes. And then we have the bottom 2 shades, which are definitely more suitable for darker and deeper skin tones. I personally don't think I can get away with using these just yet because I am quite pale right now, but I could always use these as eyeshadows because they're so easy to blend and so pigmented. And then moving on to the highlighter side, we've got 4 amazing highlighters. We have one that is kind of like pinky and cool toned, and then the other 3 are a lot more warm toned. The second highlighter along kind of has like a yellow undertone. It's like the perfect champagne sort of highlight. Third one along is a lot more warm toned. This one's a little bit darker, but I still like to wear this a lot. And the last highlighter is definitely perfect for people of deeper skin tone. It will be perfect for anyone who's using these 2 contour products, I feel like. The last highlighter is a little bit too dark for me personally, but I like to use this on my eyes instead. So these are my 3 palettes in collaboration with Revolution. I love them so much, and I hope you guys do too. You can get your hands on them right now by going over to the revolutionbeauty.com website. I will have a link below. They ship worldwide, so wherever you are in the world, you guys can get your hands on them, don't worry. So now if you guys want to see the Color Burst palette in its action and you want to see the look that I've created today, then keep on watching. But if you guys want to see the look that I've created with my Ride or Die palette, then make sure you guys head over to my channel as well. But without further ado, let's have a little play with the Color Burst palette. Okay, so first up, I'm going to take the shade Timmy, which is the matte white one. This is the first shade of the palette, and I'm going to be popping that kind of like all over the lid, just to kind of prime the lid and make sure that all the colors that are going to go on top will be nice and vibrant. Of course, you don't have to do this step, but I just like to lay down a shadow to begin with so that it has a nice base and canvas for all the other shadows to blend into. The next shade I'm going to take is the shade Peaches, which is this one right here. It's like a gorgeous matte peach shadow, and I'm just going to buff that into the crease. As you can see, it's a super vibrant and super pigmented shadow, so you don't need a lot at all. I love this shade so much because I feel like it's just a really nice and easy way to wear a slight pop of color without it being too heavy. If you're not really one to play with color and you find it quite daring, then I feel like this shade is the perfect one to start off with. So now that Peaches is blended all throughout my crease, I'm going to take the shade Fetch, which is this one right here. It's the hot pink, and I'm also going to take a little bit of that and kind of blend that onto the outer corner throughout the crease as well, and kind of merge that shade with Peaches. As you can see, this shade is super pigmented. You only need the tiniest little bit and it goes a long way. The next shade I'm going to take is the shade Lavender, which is this one right here. It's like the perfect lavender purple kind of color, and I'm going to pop that into the inner part of our eye, into the crease, and kind of blend it out into the pink so that it creates a nice little gradient. I'm also going to drag that shade a little bit onto my actual lid as well, and I think that looks really nice. The next shade I'm going to take is Memories. It's this one right here. It's a matte sort of plum color, and I'm going to just pop that into the crease and blend that into the Fetch transition color that we placed there earlier. I feel like all these colors are working together so well well, and they blend in with such ease. I mean, look at that. I'm barely needing to do any work at all. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of winging this look, but I think we're gonna go for like a really pinky sort of smoky eye here. I feel like that's what's really fun about this palette. I feel like I don't ever really have a distinctive look that I want to create whenever I reach for this palette. I just kind of play around with it and just kind of see where my creativity takes me. Throughout all the months of creating this palette, I just always feel like, I'm feeling a bit pink today, so I go for a pink look, or some days I'm feeling more of an orangey warm toned look and I go for that. And if I'm feeling extra fancy, I will go for the blues and the greens, which is a lot more cool tone. I feel like this palette definitely has a lot to offer because of the wide range of shades, so I really hope you guys have fun playing around with it just like I am. I'm now gonna go back in to the shade Peaches, and I'm just going to apply that in the very center of the lid, and I feel like that's kind of going to complete the look full circle because we popped it through the crease and now we're also incorporating it to the very center of this eye look. I'm then taking the shade Princess, and I'm just going to take my finger and literally just apply that to the very center of the lid. As this is a shimmer shadow, I feel like sometimes it's just easiest to apply it with your finger and really let the warmth of your fingers do the job in melting the product onto the skin. I'm also going to take the shade Constellations. Which is a gorgeous gold toned shimmer shadow, and I'm just going to pack that onto the very center of the lid with a small packing brush just for a slight pop of color and a little something. And now for the lower lash line, I'm going to take the shade Memories once again, and I'm just going to buff that all along the whole of the lower lash line to really create that tie-in between the smokiness of the top lid and the bottom lid. I mean, look how blooming pigmented this shade is. Wow. So that is the complete eyeshadow look using the Revolution X Roxi Color Burst palette. I'm now just going to pop on some lashes and some eyeliner, and I'll be right back. So now that my eye makeup is finished, I'm going to move on to the contour and highlighter palette, which is this right here. I love this palette so much. I feel like it's so easy to travel with, and it's just got everything you will need in one palette, so that's really good. So first up, I'm going to take the first contour shade, which is this one right here. This is very similar to my actual skin tone, but I kind of like to use it as the first sort of layer of my powder so that I can blend the darker contour shade into it and kind of create like a nice gradient. I'm then going to take the second shade in, which is my perfect contour color, and I'm just going to pop that just slightly underneath the first shade. And as you can see, this will kind of start to blend in together, and it just blends out like a dream. Like, look at that. I'm also going to apply that same shade into my forehead and my temples as well. I just love using this shade all over the circumference of my face because it makes it look like I've just been on holiday. And it's now time to use the highlighters from this palette, which I'm very excited about. If you guys want to see me use some of these warm toned highlighters, make sure you check out the video over on my channel. But in this video and for this look, I feel like the pink toned highlighter is going to work perfectly with the eyes. So I'm just going to pick a little bit of that onto my brush and just apply that to my cheekbone, and as you can see, it is very blinding. This highlighter does not disappoint. I am actually obsessed. I can't even tell you guys how much I love these highlighters and these contour products. I'm also going to pop a little bit of that highlighter onto the tip of my nose, and this is the finished look. I am head over heels in love with my palettes with Revolution. I hope you guys love them as much as I loved creating them with Revolution. I want to say a massive thank you to the whole Revolution team and Adam Minto for allowing me the chance to create my own products, which is like my dream come true. And it would definitely not be possible without you guys and all of my supporters and the people watching this video. You guys mean the world to me, and thank you guys so much for allowing me to pursue my dreams, and I just can't thank you guys enough. If you guys want to learn a little bit more about these palettes and all the shade names and why I called each shade the way I did and all that kind of stuff, then make sure you guys check out the video over on my channel as well, where I also create a look with my Ride or Die palette. If you guys want to pick up any of the palettes from my collaboration with Revolution, then we will have all of the links in the description so you guys can check them out. They are shipping worldwide on the revolutionbeauty.com website, so you guys can get your hands on them right now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoy the products, and I will see you on my channel very soon. Bye! Mwah.